two questions I'll say, like, when you are starting off this journey, it's when and what. These are the two key questions which needs to be addressed. When means, like, when is the right time? You think, like, you should be starting on your entrepreneurial journey. And people struggle a lot with the what part. Okay, I want to start, I want to be an entrepreneur, but what I should be doing? Sometimes, like, we struggle a lot with answering the what part, like, okay, sometimes we are clear, we get carried away by other people, like, by looking at their successes. We decided, okay, we want to be an entrepreneur, but we are not clear what we want to do. So to me, like, when and what is a very important question which needs to be addressed. I was very fascinated from a day one, like, when I was even a kid, very fascinated in starting something on my own, being an entrepreneur. Straight out of engineering college, I started my first entrepreneurial experience, like, built a couple of websites for a few clients, made some money, but at the same time I was working somewhere. Again, around 2000, it was a big boom, which was like, .NET. It was like, first time internet was flourishing. So there was a big boom. So I again started another stint as being a very short term or short time entrepreneur. Built Tambola online, built a matrimonial site on the side, which gave me a perspective, like, to understand how businesses work, how to solve the real world problem. So that was my earlier small stints, if I have to call it as. It was more driven out of hobby. It was more driven to make some extra money rather than pursuing or thinking very seriously of what I want to do. I just want to clear some of the myths, like, are entrepreneurs clear in whatever they want to do? Do they have a very clear vision from a day one? I don't think so. So everything get evolved, like, as you go into the process, as you learn things into the process. So let me begin with my story. I call it as a very desi kind of a lifestyle. Like, when you grow up in a very desi family, like, you have to do your engineering. So no surprise, I'm an engineer by undergrad. The moment you do your engineering, like, I picked up my first job with Excel Technologies. So worked with Excel for a couple of years, both in India, both out of US. So lived in US for 5 years, came back, worked with another service provider organization, again, out of Mumbai. At that time, when I was working with this service provider organization out of Mumbai, like, I was working very closely with the senior management team, i.e. like CEOs, CFOs and all. So that gave me some sort of a perspective, and that questioned my whole reasoning. Like, so far I have been working in a very functional silo, which is technology, right? But when you talk about business is not about a function, like, be it technology, HR, or supply chain, or whatever, right? Business is cross-functional. So it cut across all different functions. So that gave me a perspective that kind of questioned me, like, the kind of very shallow knowledge I have when it comes to cross-functional skills. And that led me start thinking. So I left my job, and to close that sort of a gap where I can understand the corporate world, which is beyond these functional silos, I went to do my master's. So did my MBA from University of Toronto, Rotman School of Management. Did a dual specialization, one in corporate strategy and B in investment banking. So since I grew up with a technical kind of a background, mechanical engineer by undergrad, so I want to understand finance. I want to understand the way companies operate. I want to understand, like, the way people think about strategy, how enterprises are being designed, how you come up with your organizational structures. So that let me do, like, my dual MBA, as I mentioned, in investment banking and corporate strategy. Worked there for a year as a management consultant out of Canada, came back, started working for banks in India. So my first employer post my MBA or post my another India stint was Barclays Bank. So worked with Barclays for 4 years. worked with Royal Bank of Scotland for a year. So overall, worked into corporate for 17 years before I decided, okay, it's the right time now. I need to be an entrepreneur. People might be thinking, after 17 years, what made you think or what made you decide to be an entrepreneur? So as I said, uh, I'm very passionate when it comes to data and making sense out of the data. So for me, the whole experience of being entrepreneur was like, okay, this give me a freedom, kind of a wing where I can do what I want to do and can help other people around the globe in solving some of the data issues. So the opportunity cost of leaving corporate was very high for me, right? Leaving that opportunity cost, getting into something which will or which may or may not work. So that was a big decision. How to convince, because I had two kids at that time, how to convince your family, your wife, and so there's a lot on a personal front also, because there are a lot, it's a lifestyle at stake, if I have to put it as that way. So you have a lifestyle, you might be putting that lifestyle at stake. So that's another bit. Financial position, what you were enjoying when you were getting a fixed salary versus the financial freedom what you're enjoying when you're not sure whether for another 6 months you'll be getting any paycheck or not, because you are building a company. uh, but in my case, as I mentioned, despite of all these obstacles, I was very clear, this is what I want to do and this is the right time when I want to do. uh, As I said, I am so passionate about the data, and being a least creative one, I named my company as Data Analytics. So I didn't even give a second thought. I was very clear this time on the what part, what I want to do. So the intent was very clear. The intent was, okay, I want to be a thought leader, be a industry leader when it comes to data analytics. So I registered the company by the name Data and Analytics, which at that time, some people questioned, some people even made fun of me, why you're going for such a niche name. Because if you are in IT services sort of a company, uh, you know, I'm talking like 6 years back. At that time, data analytics was not that famous. So if you are picking up a very niche kind of a name, which means you are losing other clientele, which might come to you to ask for some web development, some mobile development, or something else other than data analytics, which means you're losing on those sort of customers. For me, as I said, it's A, passion, B, intent was very clear. So I was okay to pick up the playing field, if I have to call it as, where I want to play. So for me, the playing field where I want to play was very clear, which was data and analytics. So now decision has been made, an area has been identified, intent was made clear. 17 years of experience has given me a perspective of understanding how the business work, how different uh, functions within corporate operate, how to pull all the right strings in a direction so that you can make better utilization, or you can utilize your resources better than anybody else. That I'm being fortunate, worked in India, out of India, so that whole experiences gave me that perspective of how the modern corporate world operate. Being an engineer, what you know, it helped me in building that mindset. I'm not talking about learning about pulleys or learning about machines at mechanical engineering courses, but it helped me understand how things fits in, right? It give me a perspective. Okay, if right now we are doing a Zoom call, how it works. So there are a lot of moving parts, there's a video which is getting captured, there is some channel which is open, that information is getting displayed onto your console or onto your devices. So it gives me a perspective how things work. It gives me ability to think little differently, to dissect the problem, right? Okay, because The way our brains are wired, trust me, the way our brains are wired, we are not wired to solve complex problems. We are wired to solve only simple problems. So uh, the difference between a good problem solver and a bad problem solver is the person who is able to dissect a bigger problem or a complex problem into small chunks is a good problem solver. So you need to dissect it first, and then for each smaller problem, you solve for it. So if people get lost when they're trying to solve a complex problem. So that's what engineering gave me a perspective on. And coming to the MBA part, from an MBA standpoint, as I mentioned, business is not about a function, right? So business sits or cut across different uh, functions or silos or different organization boundaries. So businesses are cross-functional. So you are starting a company, you need people to work. So this is where your HR kind of skills will come into you, how you are nurturing the talent, how you are acquiring the talent. Now, uh, you need to manage your finances. This is where your financial ability, your financial engineering sort of things come into your picture, how you're managing your balance sheet, income statement, and all. You are procuring something from somebody, you are supplying it to your own customer. So your understanding about supply chain or operations also fits into that part. So for me, what MBA gave me is the toolkit, right? To assess, again, dissect the business problem so that I can look beyond the functional silos and how I can orchestrate each and every function so that I can operate in a manner in which I want to, which will result better benefits for me. Some of you might be thinking of starting your own entrepreneurial journey straight after the school. I think it's very good, and I respect all those people who are thinking on this line because you are so young. Uh, Even if you fail once, twice, three times, I think you still have uh, lot of time to learn, lot of time to master the skill before you shape up your end business, before you shape up what you exactly want to do. So I'll say it's very good to start early, to fail early, learn early, and then redo or rediscover yourself earlier so that you don't have a big opportunity cost which you can lose later on if you're starting late. There's a merit of starting early, and also there's a merit of starting late also. So let me call out few things. If you're starting early, you don't have to worry about the opportunity cost. You can have a longer runway, right? You can fail 2 times, 3 times, you have a longer runway. You don't have liabilities in terms of financial liabilities or personal liabilities, right? So the things at loss may be perceived low if you're starting early. But if you're starting late, you are going through all these questions in your head, if you're starting late. If the advantage of starting sometime late is, you have seen the world. You have seen what works, what doesn't work. You have sat on both the side of the chair, this side of the chair plus the other side of the chair. So you can understand or you can relate to customer. You can empathize with the customer. When you are putting a product, as a customer, these will be the pain point. This is how it needs to be addressed. So your starting late or your experiences or your perspective can give that sort of can prepare you better in coming out with a product which actually solves somebody's problem. So there's a merit of starting late and starting early. I think it entirely depends upon an individual when they think it's the right time. Do you have right resources now, or do you have to support your family? So there is no fixed thing. If somebody has to support their family by picking up some job for whatever reason, even that is fine. This is what that person has a priority for. So if you have right resources, if starting a business is your priority, if you think like you can do it now, it entirely depends upon you. There's a big sexiness, coolness which is attached to being an entrepreneur. Trust me, this is a very painful journey. Trust me, it requires a lot of commitment from your family, on a professional front, on a financial front, on every front you can imagine. Uh, Sometimes, you are sacrificing on relationships. Sometimes you are sacrificing on your health. So there are a lot. It's a journey which is not that easy, right? So though there is coolness or sexiness factor attached to being entrepreneur, but at the same time, it's a painful journey. You cannot have your ego. You need to put your ego on the side if you are thinking of being an entrepreneur. I don't think there is something like E is equal to MC squared by Einstein, which can give you some sort of a formula for being a successful entrepreneur. I think the only successful formula for being an entrepreneur is A, as I said, being passionate, to fail fast, learn fast, right? You need to keep trying. What I mean by fail fast and learn fast is keep trying. You won't. It's perseverance. It's persistence. It's your do and die attitude. Getting it done. I think it's a journey. It's a process. That's a success formula. People get and why people become unsuccessful, because they get bogged down. They get disheartened by failures. They were looking for some success metrics in terms of wealth. They were looking for some success metrics in terms of revenue, but they missed to look at the journey, the process which needs to be followed to reach to that level. When you are looking at some successful person, we only look at the success. We only look at the end goal, what that person, or end state, what that person has achieved. We typically tend to we don't look at the journey what those people have followed. I think that's what the success factor is, and that is exactly what has worked for me also. If you look at the successful people, maybe Apples of the world, Googles of the world, or whosoever, I'll say, look at the journey. Look at the process, what they've gone through. The process is it's a lengthy process. You have to be very patient when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Success, you might be lucky, you might get success in your first initiative, or you won't be seeing success for 3 or 4 even after having 3 or 4 failed initiatives. So at what time you're seeing success? Are you looking for early wins, or you are here for a longer game? So those are the things what you need to be aware of. Success is very similar to having a blockbuster movie. For those who are movie buff, there are a lot of movies which get released in Hollywood, Bollywood, Tollywood, whatever, right? And out of, if we count the number of the movies which get released in a year, and if we look at number of blockbusters or number of hits which has come out, so that number is very minuscule, very small. It is 1%, 2% compared to all the movies which have been produced in that particular year. But still, there are a lot of people who are putting in their money, who are putting in a lot of energy to make those movies, because it's that 1-2% blockbuster what people are after. So the guys who are thinking of being entrepreneur, if I have to give you some sort of advice, I'll say, having said all of the above, where I spoke about some of the risk attached, it gives you an ability to dream, and it gives you a power to make those dreams real, because you are your own boss. You are the captain of your ship. Which way you have to take the ship, so that you are not hitting any your fate is not similar to what we have seen in the movies, like from Titanic and all. Your fate is very different, right? You are successful. Again, going back to the what part, what I should be doing, I'll say there is no clear answer. uh, do a self-assessment. Look at what you're good at. Look at what gives you a kick. Look at what makes you happy. So do your own SWOT, right? So you know your strength, you know your weaknesses, you know what makes you happy. Based on that, pick up a thing. If you are making your hobby, or if you are making a hobby your profession, I think you'll be more successful person on the earth. So pick up something where you enjoy, where there's a complete synchronization of your mind and your body. I think that's the area what you should be picking up. Failure is very important, guys. Don't get disheartened if you get failed. Uh, it's like, okay, you're failing. You thought of something, it didn't work out. Okay, now let's give it another attempt. Let's try to do it better. Maybe it will not again work out. Let's try to do it again, right? So how fast you fail, how fast you learn and unlearn, that's the story. That's what is a continuous process you need to go through, and that what will evolve you as a better professional or a better human being in the long run, if I have to call it as. So I think the question here is when to say I should be quitting now, or for me the loss is enough. uh, Again, it depends upon your personal appetite. So when we are talking about risk profiling, so there is a risk appetite which is attached to, in this case, it is attached to asset which is you, right? So in this case, the risk appetite is based on the person who's undertaking that risk. So for you, if loss is 1 lakh rupees is enough from a loss standpoint, I think that's a fair number, keeping your risk appetite in mind. uh, if, let's say, if hypothetically, if 1 lakh is the limit what you have, that is where you want to do a stop loss kind of a stuff, okay, for me the end limit is 1 lakh rupees. So I'll say, think purely, this is your upper limit. When you are running a business, don't play it like a poker game. Just think, okay, these are the milestones prior to 1 lakh where I want to have an assessment of the situation. So maybe my first milestone is, which is attached to my financial milestone, I'm hitting now 25K. When I'm hitting 25K, I'm reassessing my business plan. I'm reassessing my numbers, both revenues and cost, and seeing what I am doing from a strategy standpoint, what I believe is my customer, what I believe is my product. Is it right or wrong? Is my product market fit is established or not? So you put couple of milestones or hurdles or gates prior to hitting that 1 lakh number. So 25 maybe, I'm just making it up. So at that time you are doing a assessment or reassessment, and then that's drive you for, okay, you want to carry it further, or you want to change the direction. So it's always good to be flexible. So you thought, my customer, I'll give you a simple example. When we built a product which is a data platform product, we started off for a segment which is small enterprises. But very soon we realized this market is very crowded. So rather than just focusing on this segment, we want to focus it on medium to large corporate. We shifted our strategy. We shifted our product roadmap. So we were now targeting medium to large enterprises, and this is where the success is coming. Had we been using the same strategy all over and over, we would have made big losses, and we would have been following kind of a me too strategy where everybody is trying to do the similar kind of stuff. So early failure, that is very important. If you get success during your first initiative, sometimes success hits your head and you won't see the realities in terms of how failure will look like. And sometimes it might be bad, if you're too lucky in your life, nothing like that. But I'm talking now averages. I'm talking about a normal person who is uh, who's not that so lucky. In that case, these successes, these failures shape you up, and it's a constant journey what you need to take to build that bit. Trust me, uh, it is fun. It is fun, uh, and I can keep talking, rambling about it, because this is something which I love and I'm very passionate of doing. So I got a opportunity to do it. So that's the reason I'm saying it is fun, though it has lot of hardships. And I'll say hardship or adversity or risk. It comes with every job, right? So you can't think of any job which doesn't have this. So despite of all this, um, it's a passion which will drive you. It's the sense of achievement which will drive you. And I was discussing with somebody 2 days back. We were debating on on the thing whether your mind controls the body or your body controls the mind, right? um, if you are driven by passion, even if you're tired, right? If you enjoy playing soccer, if you enjoy playing ping pong or carom, or you love playing guitar or whatever, right? Even if you're tired, at that time, if you are following your passion, if you are following what you are good at, um, you won't feel tiredness. So in that case, it's your mind, because it's the passion which is running there, and that is driving your body in this case. And if you're not passionate about certain thing, uh, this is where your body is uh, kind of controlling your mind. So if you're tired, your mind will also be tired, and you won't feel like doing anything. So I'll say passion is the most important key. If you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you have to be very passionate. So that's pretty much more or less my journey of being an entrepreneur. Earlier, I was receiving paycheck from somebody. Now I'm happy creating employment for a lot of folks. As I said, I love what I do, so I don't get tired. I enjoy. I work non-stop, 24/7, and it's to me it's very fun. Anybody who's thinking of it, I'll say, put a plan, utilize your MBA, what learnings, whatever you have learned from your school. Um, don't go completely off the gut. Put certain things on paper, define a clear-cut roadmap or clear-cut strategy. Put the things what you want to do. Don't just follow especially this is true in India. Majority of the people, they follow what others are doing, right? So I'll say unfollow that, right? Uh, think about yourself, what you are good at, what you want to do, and that's what is killing our society also. When I was growing up, everyone was engineer or doctor. Now I'm very happy, you guys have changed it. There are a lot of other professions which are coming mainstream. So everyone doesn't have to be engineer or a doctor, right? So that's the reason why I brought this point up. Everybody is different. So think of what makes you happy. Think of what you really want to do. What are your strengths? Utilize your learning from MBA. Put up solid plan. Go for it. Chances are you might fail. Don't get disheartened. Discover, rediscover yourself. It's a journey. It's not one sprint game. It's a marathon. So keep running. If you are passionate, if you have attitude of getting it done, I think that is the most important attitude as an entrepreneur you need to have, which is getting it done. So how to get things done. Um, I think you'll be a very successful person.